It's talk o'clock. It's talk o'clock. It's talk o'clock with Josh. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Talk O'Clock with Josh. I am your Josh. You're sitting here with me live in the recording studio shaped like my living room. I just want to take a minute to say thank you to everyone that listens and watches the video. I really appreciate it. Any support is really good support, and it's just me sitting in my living room talking about stupid shit. So thanks for coming along for the ride. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's get right down to business. Today we're looking at conspiracy theories, baby. So the first conspiracy theory I have here is the Nazis came from Middle Earth and possibly still live there. What? In 1871, under anonymous cover, the writer-politician Edward Bulwer-Lytton published the novella Vril, The Power of the Coming Race. Bulwer-Lytton is now most famous for coining the phrase, "The pen is mightier than the sword," and the opening line, "It was a dark and stormy night." But Vril, too, has had a long afterlife. A conflation of Verne-esque hollow earth sci-fi proto-occult theories and Darwinism. It's narrated by an American who stumbles on an underground race descended from an ancient Aryan race that's harnessed a source of infinite power called Vril. Its possessors, the Vrilia, have transcended war, envy, and even democracy to establish a classless utopia. But of course they have a dark side, lacking the imperfections of humanity but also its empathy. They may one day destroy it. So right off the bat, we got some crazy shit going on. There's an underground race. They possess a power, like an unlimited power called Vril, but they've reached a peak of evolution, I suppose, and they lack empathy. So, what the Nazis thought they were, essentially. The myth of Vril was quickly co-opted by the same Victorian mystics who inspired it, then passed down into the hands of nativist German cults. One of them, the Thule Society, backed Hitler and the Nazis. After the war, writers both pro- and anti-Hitler theorized that the Führer's impatience with occultists notwithstanding, something called the Vril Society had actually engineered his rise. You gotta be some sort of idiot to believe this shit. In a 1960s book, two French authors asserted that the Nazis had sought to build UFO powered by Vril. From there, it wasn't too much of a leap for others to suggest Hitler had actually fled to Antarctica, made contact with underground Aryans, and begun plotting a Vril-powered reconquest. Hitler killed himself. Hate to tell you, conspiracy theorists, but that's what happened. A few influential Holocaust deniers celebrated the coming Fourth Reich, while more recent American writers have incorporated the theory into right-wing New World Order mainstream of conspiracy thought. In short, the Nazis and/or aliens are already here. Oh! What is this, the plot for a fucking sci-fi movie? For a fucking fantasy sci-fi movie? They're living underground, they're harvesting this fucking power source called Vril. It's so made up, dude. It's so made up. How can people actually believe this? Why didn't they actually make this into a movie? Because this is way more interesting than any fucking World War II movie that's ever been produced, ever. It would be really convenient to say that the Nazis were aliens, and that's why they sucked so bad. But in reality, they were just people. They were human beings, because human beings are flawed. Especially people that think that other human beings are lesser than them. For no reason. For how they were born. In New Jersey sits the Church of Vrilology, a neo-Norse cult led by a Joe Pesci-like figure named Robert Blumetti. A Joe Pesci-like figure? So basically a dwarf with a big nose? He's teaching Vril-embedded positive thinking techniques. Alas, Vrilology is not for everyone, in all caps. Per the church's website, it is a new Faustian folk religion for European man and woman. Only Europeans are allowed to practice this Vrilology. What a name for your religion, too. Vrilology? You think you could have made a stupider name? Huh? Like Polology? 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 It's probably already a thing. According to Dave Emroy's radio programs, nearly every figure in world politics is a tendril of the underground Reich, a network including Hitler's personal secretary. There's no denying that IBM and Volkswagen had ties to the Third Reich, or that German spies were absorbed into Western intelligence agencies. But Emroy's present-day analysis is a little more paranoid, even for the age of WikiLeaks. It's the Illuminati. You ever see those videos on YouTube where it takes something totally unrelated to the Illuminati and then it makes a really long, convoluted story to link it to the Illuminati? Those videos are hilarious. So here's one of my fucking favorite conspiracy theories. This photo tells you all you need to know about the moon landing, that it was a hoax. The moon landing was a hoax. America never went to the moon, of course they didn't. Millions of Americans believe the moon landing was staged. The US government, desperate to either beat the Soviets in the space race or distract from Vietnam, put Neil Armstrong under Klieg lights on a soundstage, maybe as Stanley Kubrick directed. The smoking gun, skeptics say, is the famous Apollo photos, which NASA controls all access to even to this day. In images of Buzz Aldrin's descent from the module, he wears gray gloves, then white gloves, high boots, then low, no antenna, then an antenna, a suit with wrist tape, then without. He wouldn't be changing outfits in outer space. Or maybe, just maybe, the cameras in the 1960s weren't that great. Maybe there were shadows where you couldn't see certain things. Did you think of that maybe? Did you think that maybe cameras in the 60s weren't the peak of technology? Shadows in the photos aren't dark enough or uniform, skeptics say, even though the sun is the only light source. In one, the sun is at Aldrin's back, yet on his front is a hotspot lit by something. Seeing that, the Apollo camera engineer said, "Seems like he is standing in a spotlight." Here's a little conspiracy theory for you. Maybe they had some fucking lights on their spaceship, dude. Did you think they'd go out there into space without lights? Or, maybe they edited the photos after they came back. Why in NASA's photos is the sky a jet black void? The theory isn't that a dunder-headed studio lighting tech forgot to hit the stars switch, but that it was a purposeful omission. Astronomers, being pesky nerds, would have cross-checked every celestial body. NASA says starlight doesn't register on camera. Have you ever taken a picture of the fucking night sky? You know how hard it is to even get a picture of the fucking moon? It doesn't look half as good as what it does in real life. Stars are no different. You can't capture a good picture of the fucking night sky unless you have a crazy camera. And again, this is the 1960s. The Apollo program's 842 pounds of moon rocks have spawned almost as many theories regarding their veracity. Many say a letter C scrawled on the side of one of Apollo 16 rocks is a prop marker, more likely an eyelash from when the print was scanned in, NASA says. Why do people think that NASA has all these secrets? Old Glory's slow-mo ripple effect is the original proof Armstrong and Aldrin were just overeducated actors. The moon has no air, cynics point out, hence no breeze. Just because there's no air doesn't mean things can't move. You think things can't move in a vacuum? NASA says the moon has no friction, so things don't stop moving as fast, and the flag fluttered because the pole was twisted into place. Makes sense. The lunar module rocket had a thrust of 10,000 pounds. It could blow a Cadillac into the next county, writes Bill Casing, the moon hoax patriarch. So it should have blasted dust everywhere, made a considerable dent in the moon's surface, even torched the ground. Photos of the module on the moonscape, he says, have no trace whatsoever of any distribution off of the surface. The moon is made of rock. Dude, you think the fucking thrusters are blasting through the rock? I doubt the thrusters left a huge dent in the ground when it left Earth. The moon is bigger than it should be, apparently older than it should be, and much lighter in mass than it should be. It occupies an unlikely orbit and is so extraordinary that all existing explanations for its presence are fraught with difficulties. Hey, question for the people that think the moon landing was a hoax. Did you drink bleach? Are you on glue? Here's a new one that I have never heard before, which I think could be pretty interesting, but there's not much information in this article. Stephen King killed John Lennon. Under orders from Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan communicating to the then unknown writer through magazines, when King was run over by a car in 1999, it was all part of the cover-up. Come on, these pictures are obviously of the same man. And then it's a picture of Stephen King, and then a picture of, I'm assuming, the guy that actually killed John Lennon, and they are so clearly not the same person. The real reason Stephen King writes such twisted stories is because he's the guy that actually murdered John Lennon. So I didn't know too much about John Lennon's murder. I just know that it happened, and Yoko Ono was there or something. So we're going to look into this a bit. On the evening of December 8th, 1980, English musician John Lennon, formerly of the Beatles, was fatally shot in the archway of the Dakota, his residence in New York City. The perpetrator was Mark David Chapman, who was a recently unemployed resident of Hawaii. What was he doing in New York if he lives in Hawaii? Chapman stated that he was incensed by Lennon's lifestyle and public statements, especially his much publicized remark about the Beatles being more popular than Jesus, and the lyrics of his later songs, God and Imagine. You see that cringy shit where all those celebrities sang Imagine? Chapman also said he was inspired by the fictional character Holden Caulfield from J.D. Salinger's novel The Catcher in the Rye. Oh, there it is. Books cause violence. I wonder if that was a big thing, like how video games cause violence nowadays. Chapman planned the killing over the course of several months and waited for Lennon at the Dakota on the morning of December 8th. During the evening, he met Lennon, who signed his copy of the album Double Fantasy. Lennon left with his wife Yoko Ono for a recording session at Record Plant Studio. Later that night, Lennon and Ono returned to the Dakota. As they walked towards the archway entrance of the building, Chapman fired 5 hollow-point bullets from a .38 special revolver, 4 of which hit Lennon in the back. Chapman remained at the scene reading The Catcher in the Rye until he was arrested by the police. Lennon was rushed in a police cruiser to Roosevelt Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. So this dude all but confessed. I have no idea how Stephen King got brought into this. So far I have, the article didn't describe any evidence that leads anyone to believe that Stephen King was the one that killed John Lennon. Also, wouldn't Stephen King have been 10? Wouldn't he have been 10 years old or something? Yeah. Alright, since I had so much fun with it last time, we're going to take a look at r/Yahoo Answers again. How can physical and human factors cause food insecurity? It doesn't. That is caused by evil spirits. Do some research on it. No such thing as mental, etc. disorders. Anyone can be delivered in the name of Jesus Christ. Must be baptized, turn from sin, obey God and Jesus, walk in his ways, and to make it to heaven. Oh. This dude is disputing the existence of mental disorders because he believes in God? How does that make sense? I don't drink Corona beer, so how can I get the coronavirus? The name comes from the nodules sticking out of the microscopic germs doctors saw under their microscopes, looking like little crowns. Yeah, that makes sense. It takes 4.24 years lights to reach the nearest star. Why does light speed is so slow? This one is just wonderful. Will I get pregnant if he ejaculated in me? Well, me and my boyfriend decided to have sex at my house since my parents are away. We were doing foreplay on for a good 15 minutes. Bragging! I was giving him head while he was lying down with his eyes closed. As you do. Then all of a sudden, my 6'5" tall, 290-pound Great Dane came over and stuck his penis in my vagina from behind. It was one of the worst experiences ever. My Great Dane started humping me and I was just yelling. My BF was sitting there shocked. He tried to move the dog, but the dog would not bulge. The dog would not bulge, that's what it says. Suddenly, I felt a sticky warm fluid in my vagina. My Great Dane finally came off and I realized he just finished breeding with me. I sat there shocked, crying, and my boyfriend just hugged me. I was so disgusted. I think I may be pregnant, and I'm so scared. What if my babies have dog heads and human body? This is a pretty fucked up thing to happen, but it's obviously fake. It's a meme. How do I explain that to my parents? Get an abortion. So can I still get pregnant even if my dog camed in it? Camed in it? This one is What did my dad just say to me? I was listening to my iPod, so I couldn't hear him. Is this from like 2007 when iPods were still a thing? Alright, that's enough for one day. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, like the Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. Leave a comment describing your favorite flavor of toast. If you want to make Papa proud, throat punch that subscribe button. If you want to help your boy and buy some merch, you can head on over to talkaclock.com/store. I got some stickers and buttons on there. I know it's a tough time for people right now, so don't feel obligated. I know I probably wouldn't be buying merch from a podcast right now. I know I usually play out with an improv song, but I'm gonna nix that for today. Thanks for watching and listening, and remember, it's all gonna be K.